Well, the state of California is hawking stuff on Craigslist and eBay today in order to raise some much-needed cash. And they're not the only ones selling distressed assets these days. Our next guest makes a business auctioning seized assets, failed banks, forfeited properties, and all the related content. Rick Levin, president of Rick Levin and Associates, joins us now live. Rick, when you hear the state of California doing these things, you know, the idea that so goes California, so goes the rest of the nation comes up. Are you seeing other states express interest in having these kind of auctions?
Absolutely. It's very logical. While the citizens of these states are tightening their belt and literally looking in their garage and in their attic for excess items to sell to raise much-needed cash, it only makes sense that government agencies are metaphorically doing the same, and I think the public loves it.
How do you come up with the prices for these items?
Well, see, that's really the beautiful thing about an auction. The seller typically doesn't have to come up with the prices. The buyer comes up with the prices. And, of course, something is worth what someone's willing to pay for it. And in this environment, many sellers and many buyers aren't really certain what to pay. And that dynamic process of seller and buyer meeting online or even in person and the back and forth of an auction is a wonderful way to show and really determine value of any asset.
We're showing right now video of your website where you beyond the state level, you've also been involved with auctions of failed banks, all the, you know, ins and outs, the gadgets that are inside of those institutions as they're liquidated. You've worked with the government on other contracts for seized properties. What is that process like? How does it work?
Well, without commenting specifically on any particular sale, the idea is transparency and openness, and to expedite the process. Time is money, and for all sorts of sellers, governments, banks, financial institutions, and even people from the private sector, they might want to decide when they want to sell an item. And with an auction, of course, you set a date, an auction date, a date certain. Very important, especially if some of the assets are in, for example, a leased space, and you want to get out of the space timely. As far as how the process works, of course, it's either live auctions or online auctions, which have become more and more popular over the last few years. And transparency and openness really are the key to this process. And determining value right now is so difficult that as long as it's open and fair and everyone's bidding on an equal playing field, the consensus is if everyone had an opportunity to evaluate and even view the properties, and the high bidder pays and is prepared to pay the money that he or she has bid, then it's very reasonable to accept that price.
We were just showing you Mercedes, you have Rolexes that you're auctioning off. These aren't just, you know, pens and paper and chairs and office equipment. Can you as a consumer get a price at an auction cheaper than if I were going out to buy this at a regular retail location?
The official answer is sometimes yes. And the reason really is that if I ask you to buy a boat in Florida or horses in Arizona, like we've done in the last few years, or cab medallions in Boston, or even 54,000 pounds of smoked frozen scallops in Baltimore a couple of years ago for a government agency, or 605 loose diamonds in Manhattan that we did in March for a government agency. If I ask you to buy them when we tell you or ask you to at this date certain auction, we are subject to what the market prices are. On that given date. Certainly if you hang a Van Gogh or a Monet in a gift shop and you ask $100 million for it, or put a price tag on a building of $100 million and just wait and wait and wait, perhaps with inflation or at some point the market will come to you. But if you're actually looking to turn that asset into real cash, into real money in a timely, orderly basis, in a transparent process, the auction makes all the sense in the world.
All right, Rick Levin and Associates. You've got Mercedes, you've got Rolexes, you've got a post office in Chicago that you're auctioning off on your site. Thanks for giving us your insight into the California auction.